Lake, as well as doing fires down in Tofino.
I see we're being treated to a high-speed pass by the CL-415.
Well, actually, they're giving a look at the water surface prior to going in for their first scoop. Our crew today is Captain Lance Shepard, who's flying at the helm today. He's one of our training captains, and flying from the co-pilot seat today and doing all the radio work and water bombing checklists is our chief pilot, Bill Turcott. Great thing about this is they are both second generation M&R pilots. I had the opportunity to fly with Lance's father, Vince, out in the early 2000s, and of course never had the chance to fly with Bill's dad, but I know he's watching from Sudbury today. So
now we're seeing the incredible maneuverability about this airplane. Now it reminds me of some of those 1930s styles amphibious aircraft. This started actually as a CL-215. Tell us a little bit about the historical trajectory of this airplane becoming the CL-415.
That's correct. It started as a 215, and then they improved the design, put on turbine engines, put on 4 doors instead of 2 doors, hence the name 415. And this one was built, well, obviously designed and built by Bombardier in Montreal and assembled in North Bay, Ontario. We took hold of this in 1999, and it's flown over, well, it's done over 20,000 drops in its lifespan with the Ontario government.
So now as the airplane touches onto the water, they are actually scooping water into the aircraft itself.
Yes, they're scooping approximately 1,400 gallons, which is 13,500 pounds of water, through 2 scoops that are below the aircraft's belly. They are called probes, and they are about the size of a pocketbook. So there is no chance of a scuba diver from Lake Ontario getting sucked up today.
Well, that's good information to know. I imagine every once in a while it picks up some seaweed.
Yes, it does. But so what they're doing right now is they're completing their in-range checks to drop. It's very busy up there in the flight deck, hence why there's 2 pilots. Usually one's just controlling the airplane, flying the airplane as we call it, while the other one's running checklists, doing radio work and such.
Now, it's pretty remarkable to me that this airplane goes from empty to thousands of pounds of water in just a few seconds. It's got to be an incredibly strong airplane to be able to do that.
It is. It's a robust airplane, not built for speed, but built for endurance. And as you watch, they're going to level the wings. Give it a 3, 2, 1, likely, shortly, hopefully soon. And there you go. It is about 13,000 pounds of water in a matter of seconds. The scoop only takes 12 seconds, and as you can see, the drop takes at least half the time.
Now, we have the advantage during our air show here to have the vast expanse of Lake Ontario to operate in. That's not usually the kind of environments that you're working in, is it?
No, we operate out of much smaller lakes. To give you some perspective here, although we're not allowed, if we needed to land inside this seawall here and scoop, we could do that. We might get in trouble for it after, but we could do that.
Now, I understand you have 8 or 9 CL-415s in the fleet. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have 9 of them. They're operated, as I said, 7 are in the northwest and 2 are in the northeast, but we move them around the province wherever the hazard is for a fire.
Now, about how fast is the airplane going right now as it scoops up its second load of water?
He's about 80 knots right now. He will lift off the water at 95 knots approximately. It's very much like a float plane. Well, it is a float plane, but you're going a lot by feel. When you're approaching the lake, you're usually doing about 100, 110 knots.
And normally, I was talking about the fleet of CL-415s. Normally, they're not operating by themselves. They're actually operating with several other aircraft.
Yes, and I'd love to give a shout out. We operate expansive fleet. We have turbo beavers at the M&R. We have twin otters, and actually 4 of those twin otters are on water bombing floats as well. They've been here in the history of the International Air Show. And we also have various amounts of helicopters throughout the province. So we are one diverse operation at the Air Service, and that just goes to show why we're celebrating our 100th year today, or well, this year actually, not today, at the Government of Ontario.
Okay, so normally when I see firebombing demonstrations, they're usually wings level along the shoreline and dump in the water. Here you just saw them into a 180-degree turn while dumping the water. That's got to be extremely busy in the cockpit for the pilots, because you're not only maneuvering like that, you're going from a very heavy airplane to a very light airplane very quickly.
Yes, this is where those pilot skills kick in. You got to be on your toes, got to be on your game, and it is. It's a nimble airplane, but it's, as you've seen from the big wing, tail, and when it comes in for its water landing, you'll see how just docile it is in terms of accepting all that punishment, steep turns, dropping water, and choppy waves as it is here in Lake Ontario today.
Now, I've been hearing rumors that there might be the possibility that they're starting to build CL-415s again. Is that true? Can you help me out with that?
Well, there is. Actually, as I said, Bombardier, Canadair did the first little bit of this, 215 and 415. Now, de Havilland's taken over the rights for production, and they're now have an operation outside of Calgary, and production of the 515, if it hasn't already begun, it will begin shortly.
So if there's a pilot out there that is interested in having a career as a forest fire bomber pilot, what are the credentials? What do they need to do?
Well, they need an extensive amount of float time, which is basically the backbone behind our operations, because you're landing on water, you're landing in northern Ontario environments, which could include gravel runways and strips or off strips, which are, we even have Twin Otters landing on the mossy strips of James Bay, Hudson Bay. So some northern time is great. That's what I did. I started in Wawa at Hawk Air. In my northern time, came down here to southern Ontario, worked for Air Georgian for a couple of years, got my IFR and whatnot experience, and then went to the M&R. So just a wide variety of experience in order to enable you to do and deal with all types of conditions. So here it comes in. It's probably just running its final checks for the water, and you will see it touch down on the water and go into full reverse thrust so that he can stop in time.
Now, when you say reverse thrust, it's not necessarily that the engines suddenly go in reverse to stop the aircraft. Is that correct?
It's the propellers. It's the engines manipulating controls of the propellers to able to stop in a shorter distance, as you can see.
Now, there was no additional controls on the aircraft aside from the rudders, the elevators, and the ailerons. How do you control an airplane when it's floating on the water like that?
Well, there's a big tail, so you can use the rudder much like a sailboat and steer it that way. And you hear the engines revving up. He's using differential thrust on each engine to turn it around, get it spun here, and then he'll steer it back, hopefully towards the open brake wall here, so you can see this magnificent plane. My apologies. Sit in the water at extremely low water level mark, which is always mind-boggling.
Now, you may have touched on this already, but tell us, walk us through again, if you will, some of the modifications as this airplane was transitioned from a 215 into a 415.
Well, actually, from the 215 to a 415, the biggest thing is from 2 doors to 4 doors, hence the change of name from 215 to 415. Turbine engines being another thing, so the old radial engines used to spit out a lot of oil and whatnot, and now we got turbine engines made by Pratt & Whitney, which are another great Canadian product and indestructible. And with that power, 2,380 horsepower each side of the wing on each engine, they had to make certain aerodynamic advancements into the tail. The winglets, which are off the end of the wing, they're like fences, they go straight up and whatnot like that. Inside the flight deck too, it's a little bit more advanced with flat screens and panels, and they're even improving that nowadays where they're upgrading the avionics in all these airplanes.
It is truly a remarkable airplane, and it is been flying for several decades now. And just like the B-52 bomber, for example, in the United States Air Force inventory, once you have a design that works, it's really hard to let go of it, isn't it?
It is, and that's why they're just basically not even changing much with the 515, except for the avionics and upgrading it to, well, today's technology, if we'd say that. So.
All right, so we're just going to get the CL-415 turned around. It's important to note that this is, while it is an amphibious airplane, you can also land it on the ground.
Yes, so it you can see the wheels sticking a little bit just above the watermark on the side, the rear wheels. The main gear is what we call it, and obviously the nose wheel is underneath. And it's going to head back to Pearson Airport, where our AME Max 2-panel forge is awaiting it to keep it serviced, and it will likely head back up to Sault Ste. Marie tonight and be doing some more work for our beautiful province tomorrow.
So originally, I guess de Havilland Canada was a part of the design process of the CL-215. It's got those big wings. They're really thick, fat wings that produce lots of lift. In this takeoff, what kind of length of a runway is it going to be? What's the takeoff run?
Well, you'll see here he's going to start up. Actually, they're probably just running some more checks as they spin around. I noticed yesterday after I watched the video last night that we were basically taking off from just before the red marker here, in between the fireboat and the red marker, and we were definitely outborne by the yellow marker just on the edge of your line of sight by the seawall there. So it's depending on wind and temperatures, of course, it makes a big difference. When we were out in BC, we were scooping at 3,000-4,000 feet altitude in the mountains, so it also affects it.
So I asked this question yesterday, and I'm going to ask it again today. If I'm enjoying a beautiful Monday Labor Day weekend out on the lake and I see one of these birds starting to circle the lake, what should I be doing?
We ask that everyone just move to the shoreline, let the water bombers do their job. It's basically a fire truck with wings, and we're trying to get to the scene of the incident as quickly as possible so that no one or no body or their assets get hurt.
And look at that short takeoff run.
Apparently, yes, they're going to do a loop around here while they clean up the checklist. And as I mentioned before, that's a quite extensive checklist because they have to do an after takeoff, after water bombing check, as well as a climb and cruise check. So four checks to get to before they can vacate the airspace here.
One more pass, we're told, from our Air Boss team. Kelsey Furcus, Donna Flynn doing a great job controlling the space here at Show Center. Be your last opportunity to get a photo or a video of this incredible airplane.
Ken, I'd just like to give a shout out to all past and present M&R Air Service employees who brought us to 100, and we look to keep going for another 100.
And if people want to get more information about the Aviation, Forest Fire, and Emergency Services branch, where should they look?
Go to the Ontario government website. There's several links that just take you M&R and then right into Forest Fire, and Aviation is tagged along there. I'll be at the booth in the next few minutes, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to pop by the souvenir stand autograph booth, and I'll be glad to answer them for you.
All right. All right, folks, let's have a big round of applause for our crew in the CL-415 and members of the Aviation, Forest Fire, and Emergency Services branch.